What's up, everybody? Today we've got some pretty big Terawulf news to talk about, but first let's talk about this news coming from France. France proposes a national Bitcoin reserve and wants to buy 2% of the Bitcoin supply over time. 2% of Bitcoin supply would be 420,000 Bitcoin, and this would be over a period of 7 to 8 years to accumulate this. And this bill is being ushered in by the French Parliament by the center-right Union of the Right and Center Party, that was very confusing sounding, led by lawmaker Eric Ciotti, marking the first time such a comprehensive legislative proposal on cryptocurrency has been introduced in France. They want to position Bitcoin as a form of gold, digital gold, to strengthen financial sovereignty. As for funding this Bitcoin reserve, they plan to use surplus nuclear and hydroelectric energy to power Bitcoin mining operations and adapting a taxation for domestic miners to encourage participation. Pending constitutional approval, citizens of France could also pay certain taxes in Bitcoin. Will we see more and more countries, states, etc. following suit, beginning these strategic Bitcoin reserves, giving favorable taxation to Bitcoin miners, favorable laws where it pertains to crypto and Bitcoin? Bitcoin adoption is a very long road, but an interesting one. Now, we do have some pretty massive news about Terawulf, Wolf stock. It soars 22% after a $9.5 billion Google-backed AI data center deal. And this is a $9.5 billion joint venture with FluidStack to develop a facility in Texas for HPC. And this 25-year deal marks one of the largest single AI infrastructure commitments to the sector to date, highlighting how Bitcoin miners are repurposing their energy-heavy operations for AI. This is scheduled to go live in the second half of 2026, so there will be a wait until we start seeing it into fruition. And this expansion could bring Terawulf's total computing capacity under contract to 510 megawatts, ambitions to add another 250 to 500 megawatts each year as demand for AI compute continues to accelerate. Since this is a TipRanks article, or since I'm using TipRanks to look at this article, let's see what the analysts think of Terawulf. Right now it's 16 something. This is not up to date, but it's 16 something now. Oppenheimer sees it as a $20 price target with the buy. 5-star analyst. We have analysts that see Terawulf as much as $25 and as low as $9.50. Remember, this is a 12-month forecast. I don't know if any of them are considering, a crypto winter or not. Maybe these ones with the lower price targets are factoring in a crypto winter. We do have Terawulf's earnings coming up in November. It is anticipated to be a loss. Last quarter, they reported a loss. The quarter before that, a loss. 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 Wow. Definitely not the most profitable Bitcoin miner / AI play, but they are working on it. And maybe we see a surprise beat considering Bitcoin's price is the highest it's ever been in any quarter. They're expecting some revenue growth to the tune of about $10 million from last quarter. But the big deal for Terawulf is seeing profitable quarters, which they have not been seeing in recent history. There's a massive gap below in the sixes. Might not fill. You might have to wait until crypto winter to fill. I don't think it's going to fill this gap in the short term, but maybe at some point. That could be a great future entry point one day. It is also basically where the 200 MA is currently sitting at. Now, Terawulf did break this trend line that was going all the way back to November, December of 2023. Once it broke, you saw a reaction, you saw it retest, fail, and continue selling off. We got that gap up, we broke above, and it tested it as a support, and it held up. Keep an eye on this trend line. Maybe Terawulf makes use of it in the future on a future pullback, a retest of certain levels, a retest of $12 area, and maybe the 50 MA and this trend line at the same time, a little bit of confluence. If we do see a pullback, keep an eye on this trend line. I do think the market will utilize it or react to it. Terawulf is breaking out of a previous high from mid-October. I personally think that Oppenheimer analyst is going to see his price target come to fruition. That $20 price target will probably see it go further than that, I would expect. I mean, we're talking about like a 24-25% move to get to $20. I do think we'll see that from Terawulf before the cycle's over. I don't hold any Terawulf, just for a disclaimer, and I'm not going to add here. But if you are, you might want to consider a stop loss or consider an exit plan. Now, I also wanted to show you guys Bitcoin, and we do have some good news. We have Bitcoin over the 50 MA. We finally have reclaimed the 50 MA, and it seems to be doing pretty well here. Hopefully we can hold this area, this 114,000, as a support. Last time it was a resistance, and we retested the 200 MA, also the 50 MA on the weekly. We came down and got a bounce like we have previously in earlier times this cycle. This is a very important level to watch. When we broke it last cycle, that was party over. It came and retested it and failed. But yeah, once you break that 50 MA, once you have a couple of days under the 50 MA, I would say, that would be a very eye-opening sign that crypto winter is possibly coming. And that's up to you guys to believe or not believe in a crypto winter in the future in 2026. Bitcoin has these cycles. It has peak years and it has, bad years, crypto winter years where the chart suddenly goes from being very bullish to being bearish. And then technical traders change their stance on Bitcoin and become bearish. You have something that maybe breaks, like FTX of last cycle. Exchanges going under. Maybe this time it's these Bitcoin treasury companies. Once you see Bitcoin tank enough, these Bitcoin treasury companies start looking very bad because of all these Bitcoin that they hold at a loss, basically, at an unrealized loss. Who knows? Something will break, and that'll probably mark the start of the next crypto winter. Maybe it'll just be a small drop. Maybe it'll be small corrections in 2026. Maybe we don't see corrections. Who knows in the end? We can only speculate based on the past and based on what we see potentially ahead of us. I personally do think we'll see a pullback in 2026, and it will be a buying opportunity. I think it'll be important to jump on these pullbacks quicker than we would in previous cycles. Be a little more aggressive with the accumulation on major pullbacks, because I don't think these pullbacks will last long compared to past cycles where we see these like 60 to 80% drops. I would love to see that, but I am not anticipating it. And of course, we do have the Fed meeting coming up. It is a 98 almost percent probability of getting a rate cut. Going to December, it's a very high probability of another rate cut. As long as we continue to see weakness in jobs, and as long as we don't see inflation tick up dramatically, it is elevated from where it was in previous months. But as long as the job market's weak, we will likely see more cuts. And as long as inflation doesn't start running away, although it's definitely not at the Fed's 2% target, but we are likely getting cuts regardless. But how do you guys feel about France potentially getting into Bitcoin, starting a Bitcoin reserve? Are we going to see more countries following suit? Bitcoin is definitely becoming more and more scarce as the days go on. We have major players loading up on Bitcoin at much faster rates than any of us small retail people can. Plus, of course, we have the next halving coming up in 2028, which will bring future daily Bitcoin issuance down by about half. As the years progress, Bitcoin becomes more and more scarce. Bitcoin is one of the best assets you can own. Just hold it, set it, and forget it. Look at it a decade from now, 2 decades from now. That's how I look at Bitcoin. I like to play these Bitcoin proxies based on the cycle, but I will always hold my Bitcoin. Let me know what your guys' strategy is. Do you follow the cycle and sell all of your crypto related things, even Bitcoin, when you think we're nearly topped out? Or do you hold Bitcoin forever, only accumulate over time, play the proxies based on the cycle? Or do you do something else? Do you think the cycle isn't going to play out and you're still loading up here? Thanks as always for watching, guys. I'll see you on the next one.